It is Saturday morning, and I feel good about this Saturday as the sun is beaming and beaming into the beautiful city of Los Angeles. And that's my face. Hi, welcome to Art of Rock. We're going to be talking about some fun, awesome stuff today because fun, awesome stuff is where it's at. This is every Saturday morning, this time. Rob, great to see you, man, in the chats. Welcome. Join us. And we're going to try and get through everything. I just really also want to thank the Tongva people, who are the indigenous people of Los Angeles, and I acknowledge that I am on their ground right now. This is made possible with ANGELSPIT'S Patreon. Alistair, welcome. There it is. Go join. Help me out. If you're a Patreon supporter, you get a free digital copy of the new album that I really hope you love or hate. And obviously you're welcome to be here. If you're not a Patreon supporter, it's totally okay. The new album is now pre-ordering on BANDCAMP. If you want, it's in the last days of the Kickstarter, but everything's moving over to BANDCAMP now. Just cause, I don't know, man. I think people like BANDCAMP better than Kickstarter, which is interesting. The Industrial Incisions playlist is a playlist that has a lot of these artists here and a lot of like golden fucking classic industrial tracks. Go listen to it. In fact, listen to it every week. It's great. Add it to your playlist. And if you want more dark alternative music, remember MTV TV, and they're streaming from 24 hours, and they're playing a lot of local bands, and they're great, like industrial bands, and it's really inspiring to watch this stuff. That's their Twitch. Follow their Twitch. They also have a Patreon, and it's bloody amazing. So help those guys out as well. And on Thursday the 6th, I will be hosting MTV TV New Music O'Clock, where we're going to show off a whole bunch of new bands who have submitted their tracks to MTV TV. Okay, I'm going to start with, Aaron, you brought up the concept of improvisation, because I want to talk about when you're in a rut or when you're in a dark place, how do you get out of it? How do you inject fun and excitement into what you do? Aaron, the floor is yours.
All right. Yeah, I would say, like, if you've never studied improv, it's like, I don't want to go into a long history or whatever, or if you have an aversion to acting, that's fine. But if you were to look up core principles of an improvisation class, whether it be video or going in person or participating, you find that there are cardinal things that they follow that are only going to help you in your craft. So, they stretch before they get to work. Their three cardinal rules are no, not, never. Those are things that we avoid, and those are things that you can drag into your process as you are making music or as you are laying down vocals. Those no, nots, and nevers are what's going to hinder what you potentially could do or what you could unlock just by going off the riff, going off the cuff, trying different chords, trying a different approach, being energetic, throw your hands around, whatever you got to do to bring that energy and punch it through the microphone and bring it into your music. That's everything, and again, I can glean a lot of that from improvisation and acting classes, because those no, not, and nevers, they're such a bitch to overcome for a lot of people, because they go, I wouldn't do that. No, or I could never. That's just not my style. But if you start sweeping it out the door and you go, you know what, send it. Full energy, get warmed up, get stretched out, run, push-ups, jumping jacks, whatever you got to do to get going, or costume up, or throw on that makeup, throw on that gear, set that lighting, and then all of those no, not, nevers are just out the door, and you just get at it. I know that kind of seemed everywhere, but the general approach is studying what people do through improvisation and not being afraid to just drag it into the studio.
Okay, I have a question. And that is how, and that's brilliant. I love it when you're with working with another person. When you're working alone, how do you stop that voice in your head that is no, not, never? Or I can't. Or the hurdles. How do you stop that voice? This is to everyone, by the way, not just Aaron.
Yeah. Like, oh, I'm on the hot seat. No. What I personally do, and you can call it cheesy or whatever, is I mask up. And that could be for anybody. That could be throwing on a costume, or I have a space that I record that I black the light, or I black it out, and then I turn the lights on. It's a whole different vibe. It's a different thing. It's not just a distractive thing, but it's when I start prepping the day before and I get everything that I want and I set my space and I have my notes and I have everything right there in front of me, that's when I could have the most fun and just get at it and get to it. The editing process is way later, who gives a shit? But right there in the moment, if I've got everything laid out, or I've got my inspiration rather, instead of the anxiety of having to have everything word perfect, I have my notes taped on the wall, and those could be the notes to yourself for the feel of the song. The feel of the song is, it's raining and it's storming, or it's foggy, or it's bright, it's sunny, it's this is the villain, this is the hero, you know what I mean? Like, all of those things could literally be in your post-it note or your Venn diagram or whatever on the wall, and have it right there in front of you so you can tap into that. And then it seems to be a good practice to just where that route circumvents the no, not, never track. You're just on the main path.
That's awesome, and I thank you. And Rezi, I see you in the comments. We're going to miss you, man. We'll see you soon, I hope. Eric, what you got?
Yeah, to build off of, no pun intended, but to build off of what Aaron's saying, yes, and is a great way of doing that. Come in, you start with that yes and attitude. You talk to everybody up front. Kind of set that expectation. I'm losing my voice. Lucky you guys. And so everybody has to say, yes, good idea, and we should do this. And you just kind of build and create that positive attitude from the beginning, and it helps a lot. And also, sometimes with the different groups, you got to kind of figure out where people feel like how are they want to know how they're going to participate, because it's not just you all the time. It's how the other people are like, okay, am I doing the drum? Am I doing this? Am I writing? Am I singing? How am I participating? And it's a lot easier to get that out up front and to see if there are guardrails that people have on and try to figure out how to break those down a little bit.
That's awesome, man. Thank you. I had my hand up, but it's okay. Zoom's doing this weird thing where somebody else takes their hand down and I lose my hand as well. It doesn't matter. Alex, what you got?
So I struggle with this myself, but the best strategy I've got is to just view everything as an experiment. So it doesn't reflect about you, about your music, about your skill. It's just an experiment, you try it out, and then you evaluate, does it fit, does it not, how can I change it, and so on.
Excellent, thank you. Ivan, I'm going to go in after you if that's okay. Please, I want to hear your amazingness.
So yes and is super like one of those most powerful improv ideas ever invented, because it moves things forward. It doesn't stop things. It doesn't block things. It just keeps it moving forward, which is really important. And in a jamming with the band kind of setup, perfect time for that. Because that's the ultimate yes and moment right there. Is you're working with other people and just building because nobody's stopping you, including yourself. Working by yourself though, and you had asked about this earlier, and I have thoughts on that. I think yes anding is good. I'm doing this. Yes, and what else can I do? Yes, and what could we add to this? Yes, and we're gonna put an extra kick here. Or yes, in this space, we're gonna try this here. A lot of options there. Also, we collectively, because we're all adults, we need to kind of circumvent a lot of that adult programming that we all carry around with us. So that adult programming isn't yes and that adult programming is no. that won't work. No, that sucks. No, I don't like it. No, it's uncomfortable. Like you just know all the way into the next week, and just it's just more no's. And so like I found quite like useful while I'm especially doing the creative writing side of this is just kind of invoke a younger version of myself that is less inhibited and more willing to just be, no, I'm gonna freaking try that and see how it sounds, because sometimes it's good, sometimes it turns out to be bad. Figure that out later. Right now I'm just gonna do the thing and keep trying to move it forward. Like double bonus, you can do all of, like, you can be that 12-year-old playing with your gear, but you're coming along with like all of the good tooling that is like, oh yeah, I'm being my 12-year-old self, but I have a much better understanding of music theory now, and I know how to program this synth. Maybe my 12-year-old self didn't know these things, but would have been super like stoked to have that on their side. So like there's no reason why it can't just be better, because like we have that we've got all of this really great stuff about ourselves. We just need to kind of be willing to actually say no to the bad parts. That's the thing you should be saying no to, because like those are parts of you that aren't doing you any favors. They're not going to actually protect you from harm. They're not going to actually protect you from jerks who are just going to say they don't like your music because they're jerks. Screw that. Be willing, be okay with having fun. It's like another one of those things that you get trained to not do as an adult. Adults, by the time you're 25, 26, like so much of the it's okay to just have fun is so just like ground out of our souls. It's not even funny. And so you need to take back some of that bad stuff and just overwrite some of the bad programming and always be kind of introspective so you can spot that bad programming and then do something about it, because once you know it's there, you have the opportunity to say no to it, or yes and it out of existence, because you could do that.
That is awesome. Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm just going to go in super quick. It won't be. I'm going to rant. You need to write something on a piece of paper and stick it on the wall. And that thing has to be clear directions. It needs to say, well, this is for me at least. You might be different. And it's got to say, when you are in that rut, in that place where you can't go on and you are exhausted, here are a list of things that you must do. 1, for me, and I stress this is all for me, go for a walk. Go for a walk. 2, do 30-second planks. 3, do push-ups. 4, do sit-ups. 5, have a shower. If in doubt, go out. God, I wish I would do that. Everything that I have to offer is from the perspective of somebody who is doing it themselves, because I'm doing it myself. And it's very, very hard and very, very draining. So you have to become a life coach for yourself. And if you can't, then copy and paste something. And if you write it down on a piece of paper and put it on your fridge or your door or next to your monitor, as in DOOR, door, to keep you going, because depression is going to pull all of the energy out of you, and you are going to come to a grinding halt, and you're going to be curled up in a ball watching YouTube videos about aliens, which is fine, but not needed. I find, and we've talked about this a little tiny bit, I find that smell helps me. So I have a perfume that is I used to wear when I played live, and when I put that on, it pulls me into rock vibe. I have an oil burner going with my power smells, which is vanilla and cinnamon and stuff like that. If I want to pull things super zingy, go eucalyptus. In fact, I should put some eucalyptus leaf in there. Maybe I'll do that. But doing this sort of thing really helps. There's something else I want to talk about later, which is dealing with negative criticism, because it can really, really fuck with your head. But we'll get to that later. But Aaron, tell me more of your amazingness. Go.
Well, to echo that or run in tandem, yeah, tactile, man. I swear, even if you're not a tactile person, I would definitely recommend it. Get the brightest fuck off neon orange and green and bright sticky notes that you can get, and write it down and stick it on the door and stick it on the other door and stick it on the monitor and stick it on your keyboard. That way it's like, hey, there's a thing. And then one day if you're frustrated, you go, whoa, what the fuck? Oh, yeah, I do need to remember that. I do need to set up my space. I do need to get ready for X, Y, and Z. Or, you know, I'll put props all around my house to where I'm just like, you know, that they're almost trip hazards. But then I'm like, oh, yeah, because I got to film the thing, you know? So, again, I'm a very tactile person. I don't like setting a lot of, like, phone alarms, you know? I like to write it down. And I thought about it more and more recently. You know, for me, a vice that I have, it's like, you know, and I've gotten more disciplined at turning the gaming console off, telling streaming services to fuck off, because you get caught, like, you feel like you're in a loop, like you're living a stranger's life that's a facsimile of your life, but this stranger just binges snacks and drinks and just watches repetitive shows. It just sucks in all the distraction, and it fucking sucks. So if you're going to set all these hot neon sticky notes or put all these props up or put the costumes up or whatever you're going to need to get in that headspace, plus lights, plus everything to jam and lay down new riffs or vocals or melodies, I just walk around humming around music and just setting everything up, you know, setting it up day before instead of getting caught, you know, in that snare the day that you go to do it. You know, it goes into distraction land because you're looking for that mic, that cable, that gear, that thing. So, yeah.
Good on you, man. Thank you. Eric, talk to me. Oh, you're muted.
Not anymore. All right.
You gotcha.
All right. So I'm going to talk about it from the individual perspective. I was thinking of the collaboration earlier. For me, that what works, not everything's perfect. It works all the time, but having other things to work on. So if I'm getting stuck on a song or even not being able to get anything new started, like trying to get ideas, I have like folders with ideas in there that I collect every once in a while, or have notes of ideas so I can go to those notes. I even have words, like watching a movie last night, I might hear something, I write those words down, ideas. So I have like kind of this list to go to if I need inspiration. I'm just not knowing where to start. I've also noticed as time goes on, the more I learn how to produce and do things and how to split the bass better, the subs from the mids to the high, and get craftier at that stuff, that a lot of times becomes a distraction from the writing and creative part of it. So I try to create workflows for myself where I can work fast without being distracted by those things. So once I get in the groove, I'm not getting distracted by other things. It's not just the phone and social and all that stuff. I totally agree with that. But it's also, you know, other things to do with the music or the marketing or the production or the release. But also have a release plan too, or like have a plan of things. Okay, I need to work on all these things, and then maybe you just bounce around some of those other things. Maybe it's time to move to Photoshop instead of the DAW for a day or for a while. The other thing too is if you could find someone to bounce things off of or just send ideas to, it helps. Like every once in a while, someone will ping me and I'll be, man, it's perfect time. This is a distraction, but sometimes it's the right distraction. Someone says, hey, can you listen to this or help on this, or what are your thoughts? I've heard that from other people too. Like the best thing I ever hear from me is, for me, is like if someone says, yeah, I want to do a remix for you, that's great. But what's even more important is when they tell me, I was in a rut for like 6 months. And I couldn't get anything, and this got me out of that rut. That is the biggest thing. I'm looking at a message right now from someone that said, hey, I'm so glad it's the perfect timing. So you might be helping someone else out too by kind of reaching out and doing something that's a little bit out of the space you're normally working in.
That's great, man. Thank you. If anybody else wants to jump in on this, please do, because Eric, you brought something up that I would like to throw out, which is in the writing process, how much are you forward thinking about production? We could keep talking about yes and, or we could move to this new topic. How does everyone feel? Okay, cool. So that's what I want to throw out, is when you're writing, how much do you think about production? As in, and how much does that change, alter, sculpt the composition process, Eric? You're muted. Yeah.
I'm working on this mute thing. It's a thing. I got my hand raised effectively, but not my mute button. It's, I forgot what the question was already.
When you're writing, it's just something actually you brought up.
Yeah.
Production, go.
Production way of doing it. So it's funny, I watch a lot of YouTube production videos, all genres, especially non-dark electro industrial genres, to kind of learn what they're doing. Because a lot of it's still true across everything, especially the hip hop ones on mixing and production. But I like to start with bass, and I like to start with drums. And a lot of the videos, like, I don't understand how anyone can start with bass or how anyone can start with drums. But I find that everybody has a different place. Some start with vocals or melody or a lead or a loop or something. But for me, it's getting into the drum and bass and getting that first just kind of energy into it, because that energy tends to drive everything else for me. But I do get stuck sometimes when I'm either getting too into the production part of the drum and bass, where I'm starting to separate it out to 3 or 4 or 5 tracks and 10 tracks on the drums and doing all this. And I've got to steer clear of that, because that always leads down to not being productive. Now, I might come back to that beginning of a track or that sketch like months later and go, oh, that was a great idea. I was just got into the wrong. I was more into production than I was into creativity. But for me, a lot of them start off with like a hook, like a vocal hook that I'm writing a bass line to, right? And I know kind of what that vocal hook is going to be, or sometimes it's just a groove. And I'm thinking those out, and I know what I want. If I go in there with no idea, it's hard. I would have to find like a loop that just pops up in front of me, or a sound that starts to create that inspiration. There's usually a note that I've taken when I'm driving or watching something or in another space and go, okay, make a note that'll trigger that idea again. Sometimes it's hearing another person's song like down low on the radio, and you don't even really hear it, or you hear it from the other room, and you're like, oh, that gives me an idea for a song. And then you hear that song, you're like, that's not even what I thought I was hearing. But it gives me that, it's usually that bass and drums that come out of it that makes me want to start building off of it.
That's amazing. Thank you. Can I just, Julius, welcome. It's good to see you again. Welcome, Julius. I just want to ask you, Eric, so when you're working on a track, the bass line, how quickly do you use semi-final sounds when you're writing?
So I have I've created a folder in Serum, and so I start in 2 places, either Serum, which would be like the equivalent to your rack, but not as cool. So I start with a folder of sounds that I've kept in there that I know will kind of get me going, and I name them things like that style. Like if I want like a rolling bass, I know what sounds will go to quickly for rolling bass, or I have leads and plucks that I know will kind of start that, and then I'll change them over time as I'm producing the song.
Okay, thank you, man. Thank you. Alex, go.
Well, in a way, there are 3 different ways you can write. The one way is where you have the complete track in your head. you're just working on that and try to make that reality. The second one
Can
is
I ask
kind
you,
of,
how often does it happen to you?
well, maybe let me finish, then I can extend. The second way is maybe writing through discovery. So you're maybe messing around with your favorite synthesizer or playing and doodling on your guitar, and then from that you start to build up a track. And the last one is that you have like a melody in your head, but you need to embellish it, to produce it out. I only done the first few. The first one is the most is the one I do a bit less, because I usually get frustrated that I don't get to match up how impactful and cool it sounds in my head, and it's usually much more thin and not as groovy as I like it to be. The second one is the one that works best for me, and the third one I almost never do.
So a lot of your stuff comes from playing with synthesizers.
Yeah, or maybe having like improvising, like even with vocals, just humming something to the beat, or just shouting out random words.
Okay. Can I ask you, I see your hand, Eric, I want to ask Alex. Alex, when you come up with that sound that creates a musical idea, how often does that sound, as it is, or slightly tweaked, end up on the final track?
Usually all the time, unless it somehow doesn't work, like it clocks up frequencies, but usually it stays. Because
Alright.
it's something I've worked on for like... It's like the backbone of the track. If it's gone, the whole track will fall apart.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'm just looking at Rob's endlessly entertaining comments. Rob, you should be in. We miss you. I just want to really quickly say, actually, I'm going to throw this to you, Eric, and then I want to talk really quickly about, I discovered a button on my Moog. Eric, go.
Cool. I was going to make a joke about what button that was, but I couldn't think of anything. So to build off of what you guys were just talking about, when I sit down and I know I'm writing an EP or a set of songs or an album, I will start to put all the same sounds in a folder, even though I have them in other places. So I'll have the same kick and snare, so it's consistent throughout all the songs on the album, and the same synth sounds and similar. Now, they all won't have exactly the same, but probably 50% of the sounds are similar. So I get a same kind of consistent library of sounds. And it's also easier if I need one more song, I have that library to go to write a song. And then I also find that there's time for sound design, and that is not a good time for me to be writing a song. I got to know I'm sitting down to do sound design and not writing a song. If I start to get, I'm like, okay, bass sound, got this bass sound, this lead, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I start to find myself writing a sound, I'll save it as a sketch, and I'll go start another one, and I'll save those ideas for later that I can revisit. Because when I get in sound design mode, it's very different than writing a song, and I'm just going to find myself getting distracted from the songwriting pieces of it or the sound design pieces of it.
Yeah, no, and when I'm doing sound design, if it's, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. When I'm doing,
You've got that happening again.
okay,
The wrong sample rate. So I think you chose the wrong microphone, but it's very entertaining.
Okay, this should be less entertaining. Okay, when I'm doing sound design, if I know that I'm working on sounds for a particular song, those I will always name, those patches after the song that it's going to be used in. And like, to tell the truth, I should probably group those by, album or chunk of songs. That way, like, that part of, that bunch of patches just grows, and, I can keep going back to the same place, which would be handy. And then on the songwriting side of things, I've gotten better over the last couple months. So what I usually do these days is lay out the song, in arrangement view. I'll just add a MIDI track to the top, and then just color code how the song is going to be structured up in that MIDI track across arrangement view, so that I know where I'm at. And then I write the parts for everything, over in session view and then plug them into arrangement view, once I'm happy with them. And then, it gives me an opportunity to make sure that the different parts, blend well with each other.
Awesome.
And, that's made it easier for me to leave space for the vocalist.
Awesome, man. Thank you. I want to go in after you, Alex, please. The floor is yours.
Yeah, maybe just as an addendum. What sometimes happens is that the thing I started out is at the end unrecognizable, but it's still the same patch, just tweaked 200 more times, or the same sample mangled so much that it's just another totally different sound.
Love it. Remind me the Moog button, and I already forgot what I wanted to talk about. Damn it, it's gone. Oh, continuity and sound design. So remind me the Moog button. Remind me, somebody, please. It's really interesting. Continuity came up in the palette of sounds you're using. I don't think I have any continuity at all. Because it's like I'll go, here is a crunchy sample that I took, and now here is a modular drum on top of that, like a 909 sounding modular drum thing on top of it. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm saying it's really interesting that, man, I remember back in the 90s, when I used to write music with Lux Voltaire, we would, the Saturday would be spent out on a sonic safari, and we would go out and we would record sounds, and we'd fill up his EPS 16 Plus with a whole bunch of sounds, clangs and all this stuff, and then we would write based on those sounds. And I don't know, it's just a really interesting thing. How some things do it, and I'm always trying to get back to that. Maybe that's one thing I'm trying to get back to in the magic of it, is physically going outside to create music. If I was a sculptor, I would go out and I would get found objects and weld them onto the frame. I'm trying to do the same thing with music. And I'm not doing it for the effect or for you or for anything. I'm doing it for me, to push me into an area that I haven't. It's beyond my very logistical mind that just grinds to a halt all the time. Maybe that's why I like sounds that are not saying, oh, this is, musicality, but it's pushing it differently. But that's just my thing, and I'm always interested to know about people's takes on continuity, because I've worked with producers in the past where they'll start with the kick drum. The song writing process begins with the kick drum. I don't get it, but they write great tracks, so it works. And then the bass line is based on that kick drum. And everything ends up sounding really smooth and like Trent E. Moeller. And I love Trent E. Moeller. But it's their thing. I just love chaos and in the music, but that's just me. Just really briefly, and I want to hear other people's thoughts on this too. So the Moog behind me there, the Voyager I've had for like fucking 10 years, and it's got an FM thing on it. And all of the sounds, or FYI plug, the sounds that we used on the new ANGELSPIT'S album that's coming out now, The Bastard Guides, is on the USB key as sample library. So all the clangs, the bangs, the scrapes, all that shit that I sampled, plus a couple of other bits and pieces that I didn't, are on that thing, and you're welcome to use that in your music, and I hope it inspires you the way it's inspired me. I've come to the decision that the Moog Voyager is my favorite Moog. It's got a button. It's got an FM button on it. I think the only other Moog that's really got an FM is the Moog 1. And the thing about this FM is it's MIDI controllable. Everything on this thing's fucking MIDI controllable. And you can FM frequency modulate oscillator 3 to oscillator 1. So it will give you buzz from hell. It will give you hell fucking buzz. And it's just so fucking good. It's terrifyingly good. What's great is that, you know, you can, and it's the same with the sync, you can turn those guys on via MIDI. So those things might only come in towards the end of a line or something, towards the end of a 1 or 4 bar thing, where it goes, it's playing the bass line, then it plays the bass line again, but frequency modulation is on. So you're resulting in something completely different. And it's always been there, but I've never really used it because I wanted the Moog sound. But putting that ferocious FM through, you know, the Moog filter is just stunning. And there are a zillion plugins that will do it for you for free, so you don't need all this gear. The point of that whole thing is that I'm trying really hard to let sounds inspire the what's going on. And something I've always found, that if you come up with a really cool thing with a sound, like I had a load of Brian's DSS1 once, his Korg sampler, and this fucking song came and it was awesome. So I wrote it down, and then I did it on a similar sound, and it just didn't work because it had to be that sound. Something I've noticed. And he sold that to AJ at Dark House, at Echo House. It's like, god damn it. And he sold it for like nothing. I was so on his case about that. There you go. That's me talking about synthesizers. Does anybody? I would love to hear about other people's writing process and how they create and the production of it, and sound design and all this stuff. Go, Aaron. I see your hand.
Hey, so what I would, I would like to. I think I mentioned it before, but anyway, put that back out there. I know that it gets troublesome when like a track's not working, or on the production side of the house, it's just like straight out hell. But there are also times where I think that it can work in your benefit, to where you go, you know what, this like 20 to 30 seconds just fucking slams. Like, it's awesome. And I don't know if I could fully craft something out of this, but in the meantime, instead of it going into production hell or subfolders and subtasks, what I try to do is incorporate it to where I'll plug it into like a bigger soundscape and see how it plays with other things, which sounds really vague and dumb. But I would have a really creepy score, for instance, in my personal experience, for Grimm. But I would say, you know what? That doesn't work as a standalone thing. That's not a full track, and that's fine, because it can go into a big Halloween soundscape that I do, and it's called the Grimmtacular. And it's designed to just have things ebb and roll and flow. So you might be like, you know what, or in the vein of industrial music, you might say, you know what, this 30 seconds is fucking badass. So maybe I'll put like a static filter or something that sounds kind of radio-esque, and that could bridge between two songs. You know what I mean? You could harken back to the days of like a really odd album. Instead of just clean chop cuts and breaks, it could be tail end of this song is that vintage radio or that distorted frequency, as if it's coming through the radio, etc., washing into the next track. And depending on the feel of it, you can revisit it later and be like, you know what, fuck yeah, I like that. I like where I was going with that. It only worked for about 30 seconds, but inspiration's a fickle beast. So later, that might be your eureka, gotcha, key and kite, lightning bolt moment, to where you go, yes, I need that thing. I'm going to go revisit, that 30-second block and just hammer it down. And then writing, again, back into the tactile thing. I've been writing on Post-it notes lately, instead of just being like, I'm just going to dedicate myself to the book. But I like the Post-it note thing because I could shuffle and rearrange and cut it apart with scissors and then staple it all together. And by the time I'm done, I've got this Frankenstein-esque macabre creation, but it's really fucking cool. And it's something that I can hang on to. And then later I don't know, I commit it to an art book or a scrapbook, or I put it on the wall for art. But the point is, I could dice those lyrics however I wanted to. And then if I want it to be poetic, then I revisit poetry structures. But point being, instead of being stuck on the one line loop and just constantly going, fuck, I don't know what comes after this line, or I don't know what rhymes with orange, I could just write it down and cut it and literally staple it all together in really crazy orders and come up with a really dynamic way of writing it all down, instead of just, this is the top of the page, this is the bottom of the page, and in the middle is just mental quicksand. So that's all I got.
Thank you, man. That's great. And FYI, if you ever get stuck for a rhyme for orange, go for old age. Alex, what you got?
My goal for the next tracks and whatever I'm writing is to write faster and write more from the gut as opposed to the head or like the brain. Because too often I used to ruminate about decisions, not wanting to commit, and that's how tracks never get finished.
Thank you, Alex. Can I throw back to you, I'm sorry, Eric, super quickly, Alex, how are you going to do that? Are you going to use like deadlines, for example? How are you going to do that? Tell me more.
Also, trying to keep the flow and the frenzy alive. I don't know about you, but I sometimes get in a like euphoric state when writing songs, and just trying to keep that going. And if decisions seem weird or wrong, just let it be. Just keep the slider at a position that feels right in the moment and keep going.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Even if maybe you think this setting might lead to aliasing or maybe a bad mix, doesn't matter. Just keep going. That's maybe for a later stage, but not for this current.
Thank you. Just super quickly, you may be familiar with it or not, but the way that Jean-Michel Jarre put the album Oxygen together is fascinating. It was really deadline and the conditions were hell. And just because it was Paris, no air conditioning in the middle of summer, and it was like 100 degrees for 6 weeks, and he went, I'm going to write this album. So smell the burning transistors. Thank you, man. That's bloody awesome. Eric, your voice.
Did you just say smell the burning transistors, or was that the name of it?
No, I just said smell the burning transistors. Although Wake Up and Smell the Burning Transistors was an article that Keyboard Magazine wrote about Trent Reznor in 1996, I think.
Well, I am writing Smell the Burning Transistors down and stealing it for a song name.
Cool.
That's how I write. I think I'm already writing that one in my head as we talk. So I agree, write fast, and I like to have a quick workflow too, so I can get the different parts. But if I'm starting to get like in a weird spot where I'm just not getting anywhere, I switch kind of this mode of like, okay, let me at least get the song structure down before I quit and come back to this later. Or I'll have maybe some other kind of goal of just getting the lead in and getting the kind of maybe a ghost track for the vocals or scratch track. So but the goals in my head, it's not a timed one, but it's okay. If I want to stop working on this, I need to just put the structure together and put this last couple pieces in there. And then sometimes I start to get back in the right mode and just keep working on it. But at a minimum, I finish it and I come back to it later and I have a good starting point that I'll be reinvigorated for later. That tends to work. Sometimes I go back to it and go, man, that just was a song, isn't going anywhere. And they bye-bye song. Another thing you do is if you get totally stuck, you can pull a song in that you like, whether it's one of your old songs, someone else's song, pop it into one of the tracks on the DAW and just follow the structure of the song. Sometimes that helps, just having kind of like a little mental map. You're not copying the song, but you're saying, okay, here's the intro, here's the verse, the break, the bridge, the chorus. Sometimes that helps, just having that there. It takes one thing out of your mind that you could be fighting with. And then to go back to the other thing was once I have my sounds in place, get that bass line in place, I put my lead and kind of my change ups and my structure in place, maybe the vocals already in there, I'll go back and start deconstructing those sounds. And I'll start taking those same sounds, making copies of them, and I'll deconstruct them, automate them. I'll resample them, so they're like all coming apart. And I'll reassign all the knobs so I can just make them sound like total noise, but all of them are going back to that sound. So it's like the sound is being deconstructed and built right back into the actual synth or the bass sound, and then that works great for breaks and for bridges and for intros and outros. And a lot of times I end up having to resample those parts because you get some weird artifacts and effects and pops and delays or reverbs that you don't want in there. So I'll resample it and chop it up and put it back in there. But it's the same synth or one of the synths or bassline synths. And I've just kind of like tore it up, and then it's basically evolving back into that sound.
That's great, man. Thank you. Okay, I just want to approach some really cool things that Karen asked. Did anything come of the working with different rocks and gems, Carl? No, Karen, they didn't, but it inspired a lot of ideas. The whole idea of frequencies modulating through crystals and how those crystals taste and shape the sound waves. I haven't done anything on that, but I'd like to. It's still on the list, but that's why I built the blaster beam, which I haven't used it yet, but I still have the saline here. Do you set aside, do you each set aside a specific time block daily, or just sit down and write as inspiration comes, or both? And Rob, 0 inspiration, 1 lyrics, 2 pairing lick with lyrics, 3 chord progression, 4 song structure, 5 a complement, 6 recording, mixing, promotion and planning. There you go. Mastering and art, release and distribution. My 10-step might be different. That's great. What Rob just wrote, I don't know, that didn't make any sense at all. I'm sorry. Inspiration, says Rob. Lyrics, pairing lick with lyrics, as in the music and the lyrics coming together. 3 is chord progression, 4 is song structure, 5 is a complement, 6 is recording, 7 is mixing, 8 is planning and promotion, 9 is mastering and art, 10 is release and distribution. That's fantastic. So I'm going to throw, I'm just going to bring up what Dr. Karen said again. Do each of you set aside a specific time block daily, or just sit down and write as inspiration comes, or both? There's food for thought if you want to rant on that, but right now I see Eric's hands.
I will rant on that. That's the one that stood out to me. So it's usually Saturday, and I had to change that so I could make it to these things. Because it's usually Saturday, I get up at like 6 or 7 or 6 o'clock when everybody else is still asleep, and they just leave me alone until like after lunch. And so that's usually a really productive 6 or 7 hours. The other times are after, it's like 10 o'clock at night to 1 or 2 in the morning, a few nights a week. Sometimes I do it Monday through Friday. Sometimes I'll do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just depending how much stuff there is to do and if I got something new to play with.
That's awesome.
But I also find too, a little note is that when you're really tired and you're ready to go to sleep, go write some music, because you can get in that lucid state and write some pretty cool stuff that you don't even remember until you listen to it again a couple of days later.
Can I ask you, when you do that at your tiredness, do you do that with a DAW or an acoustic guitar or how do you do that?
I have to open up, I usually open a template that's in the DAW that has the basic instruments in it, so there's no barrier to just getting in there and start recording what I'm writing. I rarely do it on a recording device. It's always in the DAW for me.
Interesting. Very interesting. It is interesting that when your brain is it's had a day, or it's coming out of drama, as it makes sense of things, and it's combobulating thoughts and it's defragging itself, that's when a lot of ideas just start popping out. People say grief makes good music. I totally disagree. Grief and pain don't make music at all for me. I have to have a clear thinking head, and it's only when my head is coming into a clear zone that I start making music. Yeah, so with me at least, I just write shit down in a book, and I try and keep it off the computer for as long as possible, because just by the nature of the beast and by the nature of the way I think is that I will rush stuff when it goes onto the computer. It starts going into production. I'll write it down on pen and paper on notes that make no fucking sense at all, so I can scribble on them. I actually want to get into writing lyrics like that again. Anyway, and then I try to 2 or 3 times a week get up at 4:30 and work on music, which I haven't been doing recently because promotion and bullshit. Aaron, talk to me.
What I think is ironic about the writing process a lot too are things that people loathed and despised when they were in school. You know, you think about, they're like, your teacher says, hey, draw me a diagram. You know, I want a big central idea in the middle, and I want all these little sprouts that go off to other things. And you're just like, oh, this is very taxing. But sometimes it's taxing, but I find that to be a very, very good catalyst for writing more and more lyrics. And instead of getting stumbling on blocks or trying to find the thesaurus both digitally or physically and be like, what's the other word for the thing, or what's the antonym, what's opposite of this, I just jot down a whole bunch of ideas, you know, and they could be one word, it could be descriptors, it could be a color, a feel, an atmosphere, the weather, the so on and so forth. But if you just write it all down, and then eventually it's kind of, you spider web and string it all together, it could be incredibly helpful instead of, again, being stuck at top of the page, bottom of the page, left to right, and just constantly being like, well, this doesn't rhyme and this doesn't work, and this is, you know, starting to drive you up the walls. If you start putting all of this stuff, and then eventually you could string it and spider web it all together, I wouldn't underestimate that ability to do that. Or again, even if it looks like the workings of a mad person, even if you look like you're Edgar Allan Poe and the shit, write it down, cut it out, jumble it around, throw it on the ground, put it in a fish bowl, whatever you got to do, but you could restructure and reorganize, and you may end up coming up with a lot of really, really cool ideas, instead of constantly, again, just trying to think top to bottom.
Thank you, Aaron. You know, it's interesting how artists have to deal with failure and confusion. Like it's core to what you do at creating your product, your music, your whatever you want to call it. Confusion, frustration, failure. And in every song or artwork or whatever it is you're doing, you have to go through this. And, you know, maybe it's one of the reasons that people give up on music and art is because... but you've written songs, Eric. You've finished songs. And in finishing a song it's not a success over one failure. It's a success over many, many, many failures. That, you know, in each song, how many failures are there? Lots. This word sucks. This lyric sucks. What the fuck does rhyme with orange? The bass line sucks. My choice for bass sound sucks. Here are 30 things wrong. And I thought that when I pushed that magic button on the Moog, everything would work. It doesn't. Fail. You know, the DJs won't play this because it's too fast. These lyrics sound dumb. Blah, 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 blah. Every song is full of failure. It's like the razor blades sticking out of a bag. It's like the thorns of a rose. And then I guess when you finish, all they see is the rose and not the thorns. Did you like that? But that's something that you have to get, you know, and that's why, you know, when Rob read out his 10 points That's what's so important. And I have that sheet of that Google document, steps and all of these things, because when you're thrown into the midst of the storm of your mind that hates itself because you're a failure and it's not working and everything sucks and you hate yourself and the song doesn't work and oh my God, my life sucks. Sometimes, all the time, you need a step-by-step, blow-by-blow fucking thing to get you the fuck out of this darkness. Because quite often the only thing that is going to save you from your spiraling depression, and this is not a rant on depression, this is a rant on songwriting, is finishing the fucking song until it works. Alex, go.
Yeah, sometimes the weird thing is that I hear like a bass line and I'm really vibing to it. But if I would have written that bass line, I would think, oh no, that's too cheesy, I can't use that. It's too bassline 101. So sometimes maybe it's just not being too judgmental with your own output.
Alex, can I give you... I totally agree. I'd like to give you a challenge.
Sure.
Julius, it's good to see you. Give me 1 sec while I ruin Alex's life. I want you to write a song with a bass line that goes bum 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 bum, just octave fucking eighths like that. I want you to do that.
Okay.
I believe the challenge has been accepted. Because I'm going to do that too. Because I'm too much of a stubborn bastard to do that. And I need to deal with that. Julius, it's so good to see you. Let me hear your amazing voice now.
I'm scared to speak because my English is so rusted. I haven't been here for a while.
Your English is fantastic. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah, let me further venture. I actually have different approaches writing songs. For example, hearing a phrase or a word in my everyday life, like blueberry apple pie, with a certain rhythm to it. It can inspire me a lot, actually. And then I might, for example, sit down with this word and say, today I'm going to write in G sharp minor. I will end up in C sharp major whatsoever, but that's my starting point. And let me tell you a little story and put down my hand. Just recently, or not recently, when I was a kid, I used to be very much into dinosaurs. And recently I went to the store with a friend, and there was this plastic dinosaur. And not only that, it had crystals on his back and its tail. And I held it, I was like, my childhood is back. And it was so inspiring, and it kind of awoke a kind of aesthetic or a vision inside of me in terms of sound design, actually. And that's what I'm going for right now, trying to sound like, get prehistorical sounds and sound more natural. Yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you, man. I want to add to that, but I'm going to do that after Aaron blows my mind. Go, Aaron.
I'll keep it brief, but I think it's so underestimated, the ability to just like shut the lights out or put different colored lights on, but literally just sit there with your headphones on and listen to what you're tinkering with. I think there are plenty of times where you get stuck looking at all of the things and all of the gizmos and the numbers and the wavelengths and the gadgets and the decibels and everything that is everything in your editing suite, and being like, this is shit, I'm struggling, what the fuck, you know, and you get click happy and tab happy, and then you get just stuck in a rut. So the zero sum of that equation, I think, should just be put your headphones on, close your eyes, and just listen to what you're messing with. Like, the only thing you should be hitting is like a space bar, just to be like, I just want to get in the pocket of just being able to listen and, God forbid, enjoy what I'm currently working on. instead of just, blue light glare from your screen.
That's great, man. Thank you. Julius, I'd like to question you about something.
Question me.
Yeah, thank you. Where did you get the term blueberry apple pie from?
It just came to my mind right now.
Okay, that's brilliant. I would like to add to that strawberry, banana, and cherry. Because when you went blueberry apple pie, that had rhythm. Dang, da 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 da. Boom. It just came. And you were being silly. And you weren't thinking. And you sped it. And even Eric commented on, what if Ogre said blueberry apple pie? This is a very interesting thing here. Once again, Alex and everybody, I'm now throwing write a song with fun lyrics like that. Later, change them. No one has to hear it. I'm serious. Because these words that are easy to say, your brain's not going, daylight meltdown, long gone, You're not trying to fuck around and force these things into a rhythmic thing. You're just going, blueberry, apple pie, banana, strawberry. Banana didn't work. But we got to work on this. Use fun words. Even if it's, thank you. Even if it's, a Gabrielese or something. This is fun. That was great. Thank you for that, Julius. I would also like to share a story about dinosaurs. When I was like 6 or 7 or something, I watched the thing about dinosaurs, and I went, I'm going to go digging for dinosaurs in my grandma's yard. She was cool with it. My grandma was cool with everything. Where I was born is a place called Kingaroy in Queensland, and Kingaroy has red dirt. It is volcanic red. It is that red there. It's red. It's blood red. It's not brown. It's red. And it is extremely fertile. You can grow anything in the craziest abundance in this thing, in this fucking soil. So I went. In fact, there's even a t-shirt company that dye their t-shirts in a concrete mixer with Kingaroy dirt and t-shirts because it stains the shirts this beautiful ochre, deep fucking red. And it doesn't wash out. So I went digging for dinosaur bones. And I didn't find any. And it was really traumatic for me. But I got over it. Maybe I didn't dig deep enough, I don't know. But when I was older, I started building go-karts. The meanest fucking go-karts. The fastest, deadliest fucking go-karts. And the thing about my go-karts is that there's a way to build a go-kart. A motorized go-kart, there's a way to do it. I didn't do it. I had to invent my own clutch, my own brake system, my own thing. And something my dad always said about me is he said he'll find the hardest possible way to do something, take 4 times the time to do it, but he'll finish it. And then I think he said, the little cunt. Thanks, Dad. Love ya. But it's really interesting that these things, I think were preparing me to be a musician. Because every single song, you have to reinvent the process. Like, sure, there's loose process, but it ain't doing your tax. It ain't designing a house, kinda. You have to come up with it, and I encourage you to I encourage you to, when other people are talking about how they do stuff, you adopt it. Adopt it. That's the great things about these things, is that when somebody else is saying, oh, I do this thing and I do this thing, and I go, fucking wouldn't do that, I'm going to do that on the next track. It'll blow your mind. I'm done. Shut up, Carl. Ivan, tell me something incredible.
One of these days when I'm able to carve out enough free time, I'm going to kidnap you and take you to northwest corner of Wyoming, where the dirt is kind of pretty close to that color.
And there's Devil's Peak.
And there's Devil's Tower, and also there are dinosaurs buried out there.
Let's do it. You bring your bullshit synth. I'll bring me Moog. Let's fucking get busy.
Totally.
By the way, I really want to do SpitCon. Oh my God. I don't know how to do this. I want to set up a place in the desert, and we're going to go out there for a week and come and go. And we're going to, hold on, that's Carl's microphone. And make lots of art. Oh, sorry, wow, my mic was just temporarily muted. In the desert, and just fucking everybody leaves their phones somewhere else. And we just pretend that you're 10 and we're digging for dinosaurs or digging for rock and roll or gems or whatever, and who gives a shit. Eric, go.
Unmuted. Got it. All right. I just wanted to shout out to Carl here. I was thinking when Ivan was talking, it reminded me, I started doing this Spank and None stuff in 2019, so just a few years ago, right before COVID, ironically. And I remember sitting at a coffee shop with Carl as he was planning to go to Australia. We were planning to do something together in April after he came back from Australia, and then we got hit by COVID and the wildfires in Australia at the same time.
I didn't make it to Australia, but go on.
Yeah, you didn't. Correct, you didn't because of that, because both those things. But it was 7 or 8 months earlier for a Kickstarter where I had pulled together a couple ideas for songs, and Carl did a remix, on the Kickstarter. So I'm like, man, I'm gonna get that, and I'll send him. He's the first person ever heard one of our songs, and he did the first remix. But you talked to me about it. You shared we exchanged emails about it. I was open. I'm like, I'm just getting started trying to figure this stuff out. I don't even know how to release it. I didn't know what distribution was. I didn't know what mastering or mixing was. And you took the time. These weren't there. These didn't exist. These Saturdays didn't exist back then. And you took the time to talk to me about it. And you had faith in me too. Someone just getting started. You were willing to help. And then there was 2 other people that once I saw people like Carl existed, there was a couple other folks too that were like super helpful, like on different things, like here's how you get a CD, here's how you prepare it for a CD, here's how you write a song. Even someone on the first song we ever wrote, the guy we were working with, he said, you don't have a hook for your chorus, but this bridge has like this buried hook in it, that's your chorus. And he helped me restructure it. And so it just reminded me of just reach out to people. About 20 people didn't talk to me, respond to emails or social media, nothing, but Carl did, and 2 other people did, and they were super helpful for that first year, getting that first release out, the first couple songs done, and getting me on the track to be able to figure out how to do it. And then again, when COVID hit, I leaned on Carl a lot for how to do streaming and live, and that was the catalyst of everything for us, because everything changed in 2020 all of a sudden. So new plans, and he was awesome enough to have us allow me to work with them and share ideas and stuff. And, I could contribute some value through design and artwork. By the way, that ad on Regen, that ad is awesome looking. I love it. It's one of my favorite ones I've ever seen. So whoever told you your best is behind you, that represents the best is ahead of you still.
Thank you.
But I just wanted to shout out and say thanks for that motivation early on.
Yeah, well, this is all about inspiring each other, and I recall you and me helped each other a lot with the with streaming and shit, and I think I still owe you a remix, at least one. A one? Okay, cool. I thought it was 2.
Yeah,
but
I think it's just one.
I was supposed to produce. I'm still up to producing one of your tracks, which can happen.
I'll make it happen. It's on me. I'm
all
the
right.
one that dropped the ball.
Okay, cool. Thank you for covering me there. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. Ivan, it better be good.
So you had an idea earlier. That was a great idea. We should have a group assignment and everybody write a 2-minute simple bass line and the brightest, shiniest lyrics possible. Make it short, and then everybody turn in their homework.
Have you ever noticed you try to do like an EBM track, like a classic one, and it almost always sounds like some kind of pop ABBA song, and you got to like change the bass line a little bit to get that EBM feel to it. It's like so close to it.
Yes, and quite often I will end up with carnival music. So
that's the way to go. Hey, if I can ask us, I think that's a great idea. Yes, let's do it. For one reason or the other, wife and I last night were exposed to a whole bunch of music from 1979, and we were one of the bands was Boney M, and and I haven't listened to Boney M. It's funny, I don't think Boney M made it in America. Neither did Ian Jury and the Blockheads. Neither really did Lena Lovitch. It's all this shit that didn't really fucking make it. But Boney M, you need to hear them. They're actually from West Germany, and they're West Germany / Caribbean, and they are so good. Specifically, what they wear, but also the choruses were huge. They were so just absolutely fucking great choruses. So go, and the bass lines and the beats and everything, because it was like disco, fucking awesome shit. And it has nothing to do with industrial music, although I will argue that what's going on in the bottom register of industrial music is kind of disco. Of EBM is definitely disco, and that's great. Nothing wrong with that.
Dark disco. Call it dark disco.
Dark disco. Which is called Darsco. Yeah, I like Darsco. Let's start a new genre. No, let's not. Does anybody else want to throw in something incredible and life-changing and really inspiring? Really? Alex?
So, I have a question. Maybe I start this way. I'm playing some covers with some people in a small band, and I'm having really fun. And I'm trying out to sing with a band, which really helps me. But last time I thought, well, I really wish I had reverb now, because I'm just singing through this PA monitor speaker just directly into the thing, which has like a mic input, but it's like totally dry. So I've been looking at vocal effects, but to be honest, I'm just looking for a reverb, and my fallback option would just be to use the digital mixing desk I have, which is small enough to carry around. But if you have any suggestions for like good vocal processors or even inexpensive reverbs that you can use for vocals that are easy to carry around 300 euros / dollars, I'd be happy to listen to your input. Maybe if you want, I can say which ones I've been looking for, but maybe I just do it like.
Have you looked at the Aria compact voice tweaker from Roland?
Yes, I have, but I think personally I would prefer for the same price something which has more mixing options, because there are some which have like inbuilt compressor and EQ.
TC Helicon. There's so much stuff for TC Helicon, and it's the compression on their shit is so good. I love the compression algorithm, and the reverbs are wonderful. The choruses are great. The distortions are great, and a lot of them have like the cloning and stuff as well, and kind of like advanced chorusing, so you can get in there and really make your voice sound chunky. And I actually think I think it's a fantastic thing to buy a standalone vocal processor, because when you do your music, You use it for every song, and every song has its own preset, so if you ever take it live, you use the same preset. I've got a TC Helicon Studio Live Rack or something, whatever the fuck it's called, and I love it. I've had it like 7 years. Oh my god, I've had it 8 years or something.
Yeah,
And
there's the Voice Live Play, it's like $300, and loaded.
There you go. Yeah, I highly recommend this stuff, and yeah, I just got Boney M in my brain right now. It's terrifyingly fantastic. Eric, go.
Yeah, TC Helicon, 100%. Make sure you're getting something for voice. That's why TC Helicon's also great. So you're not getting all this extra nonsense that comes with using a guitar pedal or some other effects thing. But there are a couple pedals. I can't remember. I used one, I think it's called a VE70 from Boss or something, but it has delay and reverb and harmonizer. But if you want that foot, be able to switch with foot, that's good. But you can't go wrong with TC Helicon. They have every kind of format you want. I have a rack mount that I use live that I got from Carl 3 years ago, and that thing has never lets me down. And then my brother has a pedal board from TC Helicon. I think it's the Play. And it has lots of cool stuff that he plugs into it as well. They got all price points too for that stuff.
And the like the older TC Helicon stuff is 24-bit 48K, so it's not 96K. Oh well, but it does have MIDI, and it is cheaper, and you can control absolutely everything with MIDI CCs, because it's most likely you're going to be using this thing with a laptop with MIDI, so you can be doing program changes, you can be changing the volumes on the vocal choruses, you can be doing feeding it, you know, when it gets to the chorus, you have these four versions of you coming in that are playing these notes. So there's a chorus of you coming in. I can't, and we got mentioned Joe Meek. What were you think, Alex? You mentioned that there were a few that you were thinking of. Dad, cool.
Yeah, there's one from, yeah, there are actually two from TC Helicon. One is called Perform V and the other is called Perform VE. The V is more like a no-nonsense, straight vocal effect. And the other one is more creative with like vocoder modes and loopers and so on. And there's also one from Boss, which is like 50 euros cheaper, which has more options, like you can dial in the compression and so on. On the TC, it's only on or off.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's something I've been thinking about. But it's also hard to find used ones, because usually with synthesizers you find like 10-year-old ones with for like much better prices used, but somehow like the voice stuff doesn't get put on like eBay so much as synthesizers do.
That's interesting. That's interesting, because when I bought my stuff, people said I'm selling it because my laptop can do all this shit better now, and it's like, cool. My baker. Okay, thank you. See, it didn't make it to America. All the Europeans and all the Australians going, yeah, Boney M. But America's going, what?
Their story is actually kind of sad, but I don't want to. I think there's a YouTube documentary or two about them.
Okay, we'll watch that documentary. Because they were doing a lot of their stuff, I believe, in a similar studio that Giorgio Moroder was doing his stuff with Donna Summer in. Specifically, I Feel Love. Man, the making of that track is amazing. They were inventing technology as they went. Good shit. Is that the one? Alright, cool, thank you. Alright, okay. Does anybody else have anything fantastic they want to throw in right now? Hold on, what version of Ma Baker? Is it the version above? Is this who is this?
It's
The
a
band.
German metal band
Talk
Oh.
hard.
I used to do, who often do like fun covers of.
There it is. Okay, German metal doing German disco. Thank you very much. Vince, I'm looking forward to your wisdom.
I don't know about wisdom. I just got stuff to say. I got a remix coming out. It'll be on BANDCAMP today. I gotta upload it after the show, actually. From Interface, did a remix for me. I'm releasing on BANDCAMP today, and it'll be everywhere else in August. But that's all. Just stuff I'm doing. Oh,
Thanks,
and
Vince.
the Metaverse's remixed album is out, and I got a remix on that too. So that I did. So I got a bunch of stuff happening in August.
Awesome. If anybody else wants to talk about what they're doing, please go for it. But before I do, I'm going to throw it to Alex.
I just want to preach a bit. I've been away from the computer for like a week in the last days. And I've been thinking, for me, it's always has been important to put out creative stuff, and I don't have been as successful as I would like to, but that's sort of my identity. But I've been thinking that it's almost more important to think about creating more community in general, to reach out to your fellow people, neighbors, friends, and to just have like more talks, more beers, more communication, more listening. I think we should always remember that that's also really important for scenes, for creative environments. No individual is an island. We are much better at what we do if we have people around us who support each other. And yeah, maybe if you have the opportunity, maybe reach out to people, listen to people. I think that's really important.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. That is really important, and we've got to keep doing that here. Julius, hit me.
So here's my shameless self-promotion. Yeah, I've kind of been on fire the last month, which is funny because I'm called Brandschatz. No, I've really worked on my voice. I've been taking vocal lessons for over half a year now, and it really helped me to improve my musicality, actually. And meanwhile, I've been finishing the last few songs for my third EP, which should be out in fall or something. I'm still not sure because I need to work out some deadlines. But all the songs are written now, and I still need to get some vocals from Alex, who's going to do some background vocals for the title song. And yeah, it's very exciting right now, and I'm really growing as a musician.
Good on you. And I'm appreciating your tracks when they come on the Industrial Incisions playlist.
Absolutely.
Ivan, you owe me a track there, by the way. Eric. I'm going to go after you, Eric. You're muted.
Man, I muted it instead of hitting unmute that time. I did it early. I got a new track that came out yesterday. I just put it in, a link to it in Discord. We got remixes from Laserpunk and Moen Exist on this new one. So we started releasing, our plan this year is to release every single for the whole album one a month before we release the album, or at least 9 or 10 of them, and then there'll be a couple afterwards. So we started in November on Black Friday with the Morris Black song because we thought that was clever. So we started in November. We've delivered one every 4 weeks, sometimes even sooner. This is our 9th one. And the way we're doing is we're doing one song on Spotify. So one remix is on Spotify. So yesterday the Laserpunk one is on Spotify and all the streaming services. But on BANDCAMP is the Moen Exist and the additional Spank the Nun versions that are on there. So that's kind of been our methodology. And then when we released the album in August, when we put it out on Spotify, we're going to release 11 new tracks and then also include all of the singles that we've released up to that point. So we'll have like 22 tracks on there, but we're using the ISRC codes from all of those. So it'll look like there's 100,000+ streams or whatever the day the album drops. And supposedly that helps with the algorithm for a day or two if people click on it. But so I put a link for the new one. For Spotify is where we try to get everyone to go to. Our motto is save, share, and playlist our tracks. I recommend everybody point someone out a clear call to action like that and get them to really boost your numbers in one spot.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, also, we're playing a show in LA in a couple weeks at Bar Sinister, 7:15.
Rock and roll. Keep me posted on that one.
Yeah, I'll put you on a list.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Oh, you don't have to, because LA, man, you know what it's like. Everyone wants to be on the friggin' list.
Well, I think it's going to be sold out. They're expecting so.
All right, cool.
Not because of us, just because they said they normally sell out.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I had a really interesting week. I started sending out. This might be sharing too much. I don't know. I started sharing out promo, and it's really interesting that I think people don't get Angel Spit. That press don't understand it, and I don't think press has ever understood it. Like, I don't think I Die You Die has covered Angel Spit once. I don't think. It's really interesting that I pride myself on being industrial and cyberpunk. Like, how you want to define industrial, that's me. I'm not trying to do that. That's just what I do. And it's really interesting that I got really interesting feedback about the cover. And I love the cover because it's confronting. And it is. I got what I wanted. And you look at it, and you can't confuse that with any other album because N is brilliant at what N does. But it's interesting how, people come back and they say, well, what is this album again? Is it industrial? Is it metal? It's not EBM. It's kind of dark wave. It's not really cold fusion. It's what is this thing? And people say, oh, genre doesn't matter, but it's like, well, it kind of does though. And it's really interesting that I got very curious feedback about the lyrics. That somebody in their review wrote what they thought the songs were about. And it's like, no, you missed that. You totally missed that. And it's great that, I want people to go into the songs and go, I think this song is about this, because that's how I write them. Like, for example, Pay the Butcher's Bill is about... I don't think I want to talk about what that song's about. It's about really horrifyingly dark, fucked up shit. Oops, what just happened? I don't know what just happened. Okay, go away. But I don't know, it's really interesting that... and it's hard because you don't... you're never going to heard it played in clubs. And there's all of this stuff you're never going to hear because, I made a choice to create art. And, even the artwork, when you look at it, splattered paint and weird shit and all very weird. And it's funny because I sent the artwork, when you buy, when you get the digital, you get this Square zine, which is a kind of a PDF version of the Square zine that will come with the box set of the CD, which is actually a little zine that's got the lyrics in it, and the lyrics have all been cut up, literally cut up with scissors, printed out, cut up with scissors, scanned back in, fucked up some more, or some of them have been anyway. And it came back, the guy said, I can't read this, they're out of focus and they're all glitchy. And it's like, yes, that's the point of it. I don't know. It's just a very interesting thing that is, I don't know. It's just a weird thing. But you got to just keep going. And I'm not trying to do something that's going to be that's a commodity that's going to be gone soon. And I know a lot of us, when I hear a lot of your music, I go, this is not about commodity. It's not about trying to be specifically in this box. You are creating a reflection of yourself. And I strongly believe that music and art like that lasts longer. Yeah, and by the way, I don't need cheering up now. I don't need you to tell me that you think, it's okay. This is just preparing you for, people are going to interpret and misinterpret your work publicly, and it is going to hurt. And, man, I was once told that if you don't listen to positive feedback, the negative feedback won't get you down either. And that's true to a point. But man, I've got some reviews that crushed my soul from people who were my friends. Anyway, I just wish a reviewer would understand that. I wish a reviewer would go, people are going to read this and it is going to have an impact on the artist and on their ability to be able to create money and build their dream. I wish they'd understand it. So many, they don't. They just go, I'm just going to shoot my mouth off right now. They don't fucking get it. Mostly. There are some that do. Eric, go.
All right, I already said the uplifting thing for you earlier, so I can't use it now. But DJs do tell me they have a hard time fitting Angel Spit tracks into their playlists. Someone that's doing a radio format, like Josh out of Australia, he always is putting Angel Spit out there. He loves a lot of these bands that I'm not hearing in other playlists. Isterly's another example where you never hear her at a club or in a place, even when she does have a dance remix.
Who is?
Isterly.
Okay.
Isterly. She's another Australian artist. They tell me they just have a hard time. I don't know if it's because they're how they mix it, the vibe, or what it is, but I've heard that feedback because they've seen our names next to each other and we played on gigs together, or when they're putting the list of bands together to play in the show, they're not sure where it fits. Like, is it better after this band or this band? I've heard that. I never really thought too much about it, but I think you're getting some of that at a broader level. I did have a joke though.
Please don't.
I've got a joke for you, man.
Okay.
So obviously you're not going to take the beast because the paycheck isn't good enough.
That's great. Thanks.
So, I love that line.
Thank you very much.
Paycheck is good. And it's a blood religion, outrage addiction. Those lines stood out to me. And when you were talking about people misinterpreting lyrics or interpreting them a certain way, I did a remix recently for another artist where other people were heavily criticizing that artist's lyrics from all over the place. And to me, I went and looked at it because people are like, hey, how come you remix this song? It's hate music. It's talking about white supremacy. It's talking about this. And I went and looked at it. And I'm like, I never listened to the lyrics when I was remixing it, especially since I was chopping them up. But I looked at the lyrics totally opposite than everybody else. I'm like, this is speaking out against the thing you're speaking. It's like people are just, it's an outrage culture. And a lot of times I feel like they're just looking for a little thing to pick on. But it also did make me think, is like, would I not remix a song or collab with a song if I didn't agree with the lyrics or fully understand them? I've never thought of that before. And I did have a little bit of it recently. We have a song called Smoking Gun, and a couple people posted online that said, I can't listen to songs about guns. I'm like, do you know what smoking gun means? It's like, am I here to explain this? I mean, okay, move on. I got a different song for you.
Can I reply to that? And thank you very much. Firstly, in club music, there is this clarity that happens in the kick and sub region. And you know, as you know this, and that is that's inherent to dance music, and it's not something that I do a lot of, because I don't want to be limited. I don't want my subs to be limited to the concept of the clarity of something, because if I'm going to deliver an emotion to someone, I'm going to do it in their pants. Thanks, Julius. Great seeing you, man. If I'm going to do a remix or something, I'll try, and there are rules, and I try and do those rules in the remix. But with ANGELSPIT stuff, I don't... like, ANGELSPIT off an album isn't really created for a DJ. If I did a remix and DJs can't play it, then that's my failure. My problem with a lot of electronic dance music, body music, is that it sacrifices too much of the tyranny of the beat to the driving force of the emotion. And I don't want to do that. And I know that, you know, you can, if you think my mixing and mastering skills are subpar, then you're an amateur and you need to step away from the desk. Because what I produce is elite because of the amount of fucking work I put into it, and then it goes to David Walker. And if what I give him is an elite, he'll make it elite, because that guy is the best in the business. He is the best in the business, and he's my mastering guy.
Can I respond to what you're saying before you pass it on? Keep going.
Oh, no, I'm still going.
Yep, keep going.
So, you know, I understand that, but I can't, like, if you were to play ANGELSPIT in, for example, Skinny Puppy, Thrill Kill Cult, in a situation like that, it would work. But the problem I've got is that when you're playing those musics, that stuff is specifically for nostalgia. And that's where older stuff, old favorites go.
Don't put it in there, yep.
Yeah. So it doesn't get played on dance floors a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that this album, not on purpose, doesn't have any club bangers. And I don't mind that. I like with this album, my thing was, you know what, fuck it. I've tried really hard to get DJs to play my stuff. I've given them stuff that is sonically suited to it, and they don't, or whatever. Look, I don't care. There's other bands out there they want to play in there. That's fucking great. But ultimately, if somebody plays this in their car, they will feel it, and I guarantee you can pick an ANGELSPIT track by the car driving past you, or by the person 4 doors down playing it in their house, by the subs. And those subs, I will not sacrifice the rules of the tyranny of the beat and EBM to lose that movement. I won't do it. But however, I will say that the art of writing a dance track, I take nothing away from that. It is a skill. And when I do a remix, I try very, very hard to appease and work within that boundary, because I think it is a skill, and it's a skill set that I'm still developing. Did you want to reply to that?
Yes, please. So I was going to say the same thing. It's like the songs that works really well with are Skinny Puppy, Thrill Kill. But you're right. A lot of people want a whole bunch of nostalgia songs together. And I was the first thing I was going to say is like, that's what they're like. It doesn't quite fit here because it sounds like these, but we're playing old songs right now. And it seems like every place you go, they just want to hear old songs. And I think that's part of the limitation of growing this music genre too, is not the older people want to hear the old songs, and the newer people are never even heard of them, except for they're getting played all the time. And they don't know if they're old or new, but they just think that's the music to listen to. And a lot of music gets cut out or left out. But then also, I feel that limitation too, where like, why do I have to play in these paradigms of frequencies in order to get the fit in? I got to cut out this big section of lows and this mids in order to get in there. And I can't have a heavy kick in bass, because it's funny when you see these cameras, because there's so many streamers that are DJs now, and you see that new track kick in, all of a sudden everything starts vibrating out of control, and they don't know what to do because all those old tracks don't have the same kind of low mixes, the low end mixes that the new ones do. And the way we've approached it with this new album, because it's a frustrating point too, and you've coached me on that when I've done remixes for you, is hey, let's get some 4 on the floor in there, let's make it continuous, and there's some structure stuff, but it's also that range of sound that's in there. And we approach that with this album where the singles all have dance ready tracks on them, but the album will not have a single song that'll be ready for the dance floor. Nobody will play a single song except all the singles. So we're putting all the singles on the second half of the album, and that's how we're trying to address it. But I feel like I shouldn't have to do that.
Yes, and I thank you for that. And my one reply to that, which isn't replying to anything, is the only band I know of who fucking does it every time, who does emotional stuff with beat stuff, is Depeche Mode. Because when you hear Depeche Mode on a floor, it is clean, it is precise, and they have been doing this since fucking Construction Time Again, and I don't know how they fucking did it. And you listen to Violator, or you listen to any of their shit, their new stuff is it's glass perfect. It is crystal clear. And there's all this crazy fucking shit going on, and it's great. It's so good. And I see people always obviously get up and dance to Personal Jesus. You know why? It's easy to dance to, and it is, the frequencies flood. What he did on that album, man, it's so, and it had fucking Ellen Wilder on it. It was just those two guys, man. Jesus, they went on to do fucking 9 Inch Nails. Anyway, it's just elite. So yeah, I have a lot to learn, and that's the thing, man, is that you can't do like that deep growling brown note bass line. You can't do that on a dance floor because it's in the way of the kick drum, unless it's in the stop. People don't like stops. But whatever. But my point was going to be, when you're on a dance floor, it's a fast food restaurant, and they want hamburgers. And we've had this conversation before. If it's not 2 sesame seed buns with crap lettuce and crap tomato and meat substitute and some pickles that people can pick off, and mustard and tomatoes or ketchup, that's a hamburger. They want the same thing on the floor, and that's fucking okay. It takes skill to make a good hamburger too. You can still develop. You could give them a hamburger that's gourmet. Slip it in there. Anyway, that's what I got. Ivan. Ivan, you muted.
There we go. I hope someday to make gourmet hamburgers.
Me too.
I would suggest, just off the top of my head, that the Industrial Incisions playlist does do a good job of showing how this new music and the old stuff can get along.
Yeah, I disagree with you, Ivan, and I disagree because there is one band that doesn't have a track on it yet.
It's on the way. It's on the way.
All right, I'm sorry. Keep going.
It's out for mastering as we speak. And then critics. Okay. There's two kinds of criticizing. There's constructive, and then there's being a dick. And you really want to watch out for. There's a whole group of people out there that they don't want to see. They don't want to win. What they want to see is you fail. Anything that they have to say, valueless. So get good at ignoring them.
Yeah, but the problem is that that's fucking with your Bandcamp sales. It's fucking with your Kickstarter. It's fucking with people going to your show. It's fucking with the DJs playing your music. It's fucking with other streaming services playing it on their radio station. That's the problem. Yeah. Anyway, but no, man, I thank you for what you say. I thank you. Did you want to add anything to that, or am I throwing it to... Thanks, man. Always appreciate. Aaron, go.
Hey, so, I was going to say, it's multifaceted, but I think a huge prime driver for a lot of projects is just flat out obsession. And I like the fact that, Patreon is like my go-to, that is my thing, and the things that I am currently obsessed with become, of incalculable value when it comes to what I want to express for my specific audience. Those are the people that sought me out. Those are the people that dig on what I'm doing, so that, is a huge, huge boost for me. And then every now and again, I log into Spotify for artists and I'm like, well, fuck me dead. This has a lot of listens. This has a lot of views. I thought the horror theme thing, I thought it was just going to be people dig on it near Halloween. And that was going to be just the thing. But more and more I'm finding, there's an audience out there. And what runs parallel and really awesome to Grimm, if we're plugging random things, there is a project called Valencia Obscura, and they do horror short stories, which tends to run, again, very, very parallel to Wicked Stories from the Deadlands. So, and I've been requested to do some vocal stuff just for their side project, and, sharing is caring and all that shit. Or what I recently said was harpies of a feather shred together. So there's opportunities out there, but again, I think a huge part of what keeps me anchored is just I have to have an obsession, and I like and appreciate the fact that I have an audience that wants to hear my current obsessions on a semi-regular basis. So do with that what you will, but I just think it's a good booster in the background to where you'd be like, you know what, I'm obsessed with this and I want to show other people the reason why, and maybe they'll be obsessed with it too. It's just a hell of an energizer.
You are the best. Thank you so much. Alex, talk to me.
Yeah, just on the DJ and club thing, it's sometimes really weird. Like in my favorite club, Blue Monday plays totally fine, gets people dancing, sounds clear, but I requested Assimilate and it just didn't sound right. On my shitty 2 speakers, it sounded much better than on their I don't know, $1,000 PA, multi-$1,000 PA. But I heard it in another club and it sounded fine. And stuff like that drives me like insane, because I don't understand how it works. It's so interesting. Yeah.
And what's actually also really interesting, and by the way, we're gonna wrap this up soon. What's also really interesting is when they play Front 242, Skinny Puppy, Early Ministry, all that stuff from that era, it works because it's all the same. The mixing technology was similar. The approach to mastering was similar. So everything, you get used to that sound. But then when they pull in new stuff, it's like a totally different sound, because I got to wrap this up. And thank you all so much for being a part of this. We're going to raid to MTV TV very shortly. This is on again next Saturday at that time. Once again, thank you everybody on ANGELSPIT'S Patreon. If you want to do me a big favor, couple of bucks a month, $3 a month, and you can help keep me going and all that jazz. The new album is right there. Bastard Gods on ANGELSPIT'S BANDCAMP. Please check it out. It will ruin your face. And also, this playlist is awesome. This is the Industrial Incisions playlist, which we've been talking about. That's on Spotify. Go find something awesome. And we are right now going to raid on over to MTV TV because they're great. And if you're not on Twitch and if you're not joining the raid, just click on that link and we'll go over there right now. But thank you all so much for being a part of this. You bloody rock. See you next Saturday. Bye. Bye.